Today, we are diving into a topic that's, well, literally invisible, but can have a massive, and I mean massive, impact on your entire business: cleanroom compliance. We're going to go way beyond just the checklists and show you why mastering this is absolutely fundamental to protecting your products, your reputation, and most importantly, your patients. So let me start with a question for every single manager, every quality leader out there. What's the one thing, something you absolutely cannot see with your own eyes, that can bring your whole multi-million-dollar operation to a sudden, grinding, and incredibly expensive halt? It's a threat you can't see, you can't feel, but believe me, its impact is very, very real. And here's the answer. It's these tiny, invisible invaders, non-viable airborne particles. Yeah, we're talking about microscopic specks of dust, little fibers, and other bits of matter that inside a sterile environment represent a huge business risk. So the real question is, how do you fight a war against an enemy you can't even see? Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by understanding the high-stakes environment we're operating in. Then, we'll look at how we actually make these invisible particles visible. After that, we'll get into the global rules of engagement, talk about how a solid strategy defeats risk, and finally, tie it all back to the most important thing: patient safety. Okay, first up, the high-stakes environment. This is where we connect those tiny microscopic particles to the very real, very tangible business risks they create every single day. And here's the number you need to remember: 1. That's it. It takes just one contaminated batch, just one failed audit, to trigger a catastrophic failure. In the world of cleanroom compliance, there's no such thing as good enough. There's no grading on a curve. Success is all about your ability to prevent that single devastating event from ever happening. So, if you're up against an invisible enemy, what's the first thing you have to do? You've got to find a way to see it. In this next section, we're going to explore the incredible technology that turns these microscopic threats into hard, actionable data, giving you the control you need to protect your operations. And the magic behind it all is a principle called light scattering. It actually sounds complicated, but the idea is brilliantly simple. A particle counter essentially creates a high-tech tripwire made of a laser beam. When any particle, no matter how small, flies through that beam, it scatters the light. It creates a tiny flash that a sensor can measure. It's elegant, and it's amazingly effective. And this breaks down exactly how it works. Step 1, a pump pulls air into the device. 2, the laser acts like a spotlight. Any particle that passes through it gets lit up. 3, a photodetector, which is basically a super sensitive camera, sees that flash of light. Now, here's the cool part. A small particle creates a dim flash. A larger particle creates a much brighter one. The machine instantly translates the brightness of the flash into the particle's size, and the number of flashes into a total count. And just like that, the invisible becomes perfectly visible as data on a screen. But here's the thing, not all particles are created equal. For strategic reasons, we obsess over 2 key sizes. First, you have the 0.5 micron particles. Think of these as your indicator particles. They're tiny, they're everywhere, and if you see their numbers start to climb, it's the very first warning sign that your HEPA filtration system, the lungs of your cleanroom, is starting to fail. Then you have the 5.0 micron particles. These are the risk particles. Why? Because they're big enough to act like a taxi service for microbial hitchhikers, like bacteria and fungi. One tells you about the health of your equipment, the other tells you about the immediate risk to your product. You have to watch both. Okay, so now we can see the particles, and we understand their strategic importance. Next, we have to understand the rules of the game, and that brings us to the global regulatory standards that govern every cleanroom operation. And listen, this is the most important thing to get. There's been a huge philosophical shift in recent years. Regulators aren't just satisfied if you can pass a test on one particular day. No way. The new expectation, especially under the latest EU GMP Annex 1, is for a living, breathing contamination control strategy, or CCS. You have to prove that your entire process is designed for constant control 24/7. This table lays out the 2 big players. On the one hand, you've got ISO 14644-1. I want you to think of this as the global baseline. It defines clean air purely by the numbers. How many particles of a certain size are allowed? It's the foundation. But for pharmaceuticals, the 2022 update to EU GMP Annex 1 is the real game changer. It takes that ISO foundation and builds a whole framework of risk management right on top of it. It's less about just counting particles and much more about proving you have a holistic contamination control strategy across all your grades, from the supercritical grade A zones down to the less critical background areas. So now that we understand the technology and the rules, we can finally build our strategy. This section is all about taking proactive steps to beat risk at its own game and prevent those incredibly costly compliance failures before they ever have a chance to happen. Let's be really direct here. These are the kinds of failures that auditors find time and time again, and they link straight back to what we've been talking about. Unexpected production downtime? You can almost bet it's a failing HEPA filter, which you would have seen coming by watching those 0.5 micron indicator particles. A rejected batch? That's very likely tied to those 5.0 micron risk particles carrying microbes. A major finding in your audit? 9 times out of 10, it's because of a failure to document and prove you have that comprehensive strategy in place. So the mitigation strategy becomes a pretty clear 3-step process. First, you have to implement continuous monitoring of both of those key particle sizes. You need the complete picture. Second, that data can't live in a silo. It has to be directly integrated into your formal, written contamination control strategy. And third, you must have clear, predefined action protocols for when, not if, but when a particle count goes over the limit. You have to know exactly what to do before the alarm ever goes off.
And this brings us to our final, and frankly, our most important section. We've talked about risk, tech, and strategy, but all of it, every single bit of it, serves one ultimate purpose: the foundation of patient safety. This is the why. It's the reason behind every rule, every measurement, and every procedure we follow. This quote just perfectly captures the entire philosophy, doesn't it? Controlling the air in your facility, it isn't just some technical exercise. It's not about HVAC validation for its own sake. It is the absolute fundamental prerequisite for controlling the quality and safety of your product. Every particle you count, every filter you check, is a brick you're laying in that foundation. So I'll leave you with this one last question to take back with you. As you look at your own operations, at your own documentation, ask yourself this: is your contamination control strategy just a document designed to pass an audit? Is it just a checkbox to be ticked? Or is it a dynamic, living system that truly acts as a shield, protecting every single patient who depends on the quality of what you do? Because that answer, that makes all the difference in the world.